Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating, right at the intersection of massive wealth, human psychology, and elite football performance. We're looking at what I like to call the price tag paradox. It's this baffling reality where, in the world of football, spending astronomical amounts of money on a single player just doesn't guarantee success. Actually, scratch that. It frequently leads to a dramatic drop in their performance. So let's jump right in and figure out exactly why this happens.
100 million euros. I mean, just think about that number for a second. It is an absolutely staggering amount of money to spend on one single human being. And yet, time and time again, we see these mega transfers like Eden Hazard going to Real Madrid or Alexander Isak to Newcastle, where incredible talents are bought for immense sums, only to really struggle to justify that investment. It's the ultimate paradox. It seems like the more a club pays, the more likely the player's actual on-pitch performance is about to plummet.
Jack Grealish actually hit the nail on the head regarding the human element of this paradox after his massive move to Manchester City. His quote instantly establishes our core premise here. A heavy price tag fundamentally alters a player's reality. It totally changes how they're treated by the media, how fans judge them, and crucially, how they perceive themselves every single time they step out onto the pitch.
Section 1. Proof in the data.
Because we need to prove this drop in form isn't just an illusion, right? So we're turning to the statistical reality. Based on some brilliant academic research by Shiv Mittal from the 2019/2020 transfer season, we can see exactly what happens to a player's market value in the 2 years following a major move. The data shows that attackers suffer a massive, sheer cliff-edge drop of nearly £25 million in their market value after a high-profile transfer. This definitively proves the paradox is real. These high fees absolutely correlate with subsequent performance dips.
Now, geographically, this builds a bit of a mystery. When we look at where these attackers are actually transferring to, Spain sticks out like a sore thumb. Players transferring to Spanish giants face the absolute steepest drops in performance value compared to leagues in England, Italy, or France. The big question is, why?
Well, before we solve that geographic mystery, let's talk about why attackers specifically drop so much harder than defenders or goalkeepers. The crucial point here is how we inherently value players. Attackers' initial price tags are artificially inflated because, let's face it, goals and assists are incredibly popular. They bring the glory, the fans, the massive merchandise sales. But because their starting price is so heavily inflated by all that hype, their inevitable fall is just much, much steeper when they fail to deliver immediate magic.
So, let's look into the causes. Suspect 1. The tactical misfit.
We basically have a crime scene here with this massive loss of player value, and we need to interrogate the suspects. Why does this happen? Well, often, clubs are just buying for prestige and headlines, totally ignoring whether the player actually fits their tactical identity. World-class players rarely operate in a vacuum. They thrive because a specific system was carefully built around them to highlight their strengths and hide their weaknesses. But when a massive club buys them simply for their star power, they yank that player out of their perfect ecosystem and drop them into a totally foreign environment while expecting the exact same results. It's literally a recipe for disaster.
There is honestly no better example of this than Antoine Griezmann's genuinely puzzling time at Barcelona. As his former teammate Jordi Alba pointed out, Griezmann did everything right. He was physically at full throttle, he's obviously incredibly technically gifted, but he simply never adapted to Barcelona's system. He was a prestige buy who just didn't fit the tactical puzzle. And guess what happened? The second he returned to Atletico Madrid and his old system, he instantly became a world-class superstar again.
Which brings us to suspect 2, the valuation illusion. Sometimes, a player's massive price tag has absolutely nothing to do with their actual footballing ability and literally everything to do with corporate accounting. This is where the business side of football completely distorts reality. To comply with UEFA's financial fair play regulations, clubs use accounting tricks like amortization. They'll take a massive transfer fee and spread it out over the length of a player's contract on the balance sheet. Sometimes, clubs will even trade players back and forth for inflated sums simply to log immediate income and balance their books. It creates this total illusion, inflating the player's supposed worth far beyond reality.
So how do we fix this valuation illusion? The data-driven solution that researchers propose is a metric called goals added. Instead of relying on hyped-up market values or accounting tricks, clubs should translate every single on-pitch action, every pass, run, and tackle into a specific monetary value based on how much it actually increases the team's chance of scoring. It's about paying for real, measurable impact, not just a famous name.
And finally, suspect 3, the psychological burden. Because at the end of the day, these players aren't just assets on a spreadsheet. They're young men carrying a crushing weight in front of millions of people.
Sports psychologists call this evaluation apprehension. When a player knows they cost 100 million euros, they become hyper-aware of being constantly judged against that exact number. Every time they touch the ball, it's like they hear the critics asking, is this what 100 million buys? This desperate need to instantly prove their worth destroys their natural flow, and it replaces instinct with overthinking and crippling anxiety. And you can see exactly how that anxiety manifests physically on the pitch. A player who is desperate to justify their cost stops making the smart, simple pass that the team actually needs. Instead, they force it. They take wild, low-probability shots, or they make these risky, aggressive tackles, desperately chasing a highlight reel moment, just to silence the critics. They literally stop playing for the team and start playing for the price tag.
Section 5. Beating the price tag. Let's look at how to adapt.
So you might be wondering, is it completely hopeless? Not necessarily. Let's look at how the true elite players break this curse. Kevin De Bruyne is the prime example of someone who thrived after a massive transfer to Manchester City. His secret? Radical compartmentalization. He completely separates the external noise of the transfer fee from his own internal standards. He focuses only on what he can actually control, his daily preparation and his effort.
In fact, sports psychologists have mapped out 4 actionable steps that top players use to beat this price tag. First is reframing, viewing the huge fee as a complement to their talent rather than a threat. Second is process focus, obsessing over daily training habits instead of end results. Third is selective attention, ruthlessly filtering out the media noise and social media. And fourth, identity balance, ensuring their entire self-worth isn't just tied to kicking a football. Mental toughness is absolutely just as crucial as physical ability when changing clubs.
So what should you take away from this explainer? Well, the next time your favorite club breaks the bank to sign a player for 100 million euros, I want you to look past the hype. Remember the tactical misfits, the accounting illusions, and the massive psychological burden placed on that player's shoulders. And ask yourself, are they really buying a superstar, or are they just buying pressure? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and I'll see you next time.